see everybody here, and I see some friendly faces and some folks I know for a long time, some new folks. It's nice to be in D.C. My son actually goes to George Washington, so it's nice to be here. But whenever I'm in town, he's never around. He's visiting someone else, so he's actually in town. I'm going to confirm that he attends university for a change. And after the debate last night, it's topical to be in D.C. and always interesting. I know my favorite political quote is a Truman quote where he said, "The definition of a statesman is a politician who's been dead for 30 years." So it takes a little while. You'll laugh in 5 minutes. I think it's pretty clever line. Speaking of clever, we have a cadre of some really smart people here in the space. And we're going to talk a little bit about verticals and the different dynamics and the transformation going on in these individual verticals and how each of these folks and their companies add value in each of those verticals. So let's start first with sort of the residential experience a little bit and how things are transformed via technology and your particular approach.
Yeah, I think it's been mentioned a few times today, the end user and who is the end user has really been what's redefined the multifamily space significantly recently, in that you're not designing a solution or implementing a solution specifically for the property manager or the property owner anymore. It's all being driven now by both. It's not an or, it's not the resident or the property manager. It's how are you designing and implementing solutions that deliver the flexibility that residents are demanding, expecting, maybe sounds a little better, expecting versus demanding, but as along with that, delivering what the property managers need to deliver the security to the location, but also their ability to manage the contractual requirements and all of those things, because the other side that you're seeing this shift from that the residents are driving is they're going away from the 12-month lease. And you're starting to see a club approach, and digital nomads are driving this concept that I can stay in this city for 3 months and then move to another city for another 3 months and go elsewhere. So that end user demand that says, I want flexibility, while the property managers are saying, well, we still need to have some level of control and the ability to understand who's in our property, and all of that is really defining this and concept when it comes to multifamily versus focusing just on delivering operational value to the property manager. You also have to deliver that flexibility value to the end user. And then the other topic, I think, in that space is you're also starting to see, because of some of that demand for flexibility, you're no longer seeing each property get to dictate an access control solution. It's now being portfolio driven and standard. We had an entire panel talking about standards. Well, sure. You're seeing multifamily developers and property managers saying, I can't have disparate systems at all of my different locations. I have to standardize. I have to drive portfolio level decisions versus project by project decisions.
Thank you. So interesting view into the residential space. Trent, from a commercial point of view, what are the things that are adding value in technology that you see?
Yeah, so look, we provide a key management solution. We integrate with access control systems, business management systems, credential management systems, and enable the management of physical keys to be done by those systems. Still relatively young here in the United States, North America, but in the Australian market we're a lot more mature, and we're doing a lot with the commercial real estate sector. And the large commercial real estate owners and managers in the Australian market, I'm sure it's the same here. They're all looking at commonising, improving their systems, commonising their hardware and software systems to improve user experience, improve efficiency, and of course drive better safety. And there's lots of great examples with how they are selecting best-in-breed platforms that all integrate with each other, become interoperable, and rolling them out through their portfolios to meet each of those objectives.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. And as you go to the enterprise world, in your world, Bernie, how do you see things evolving, and what things are important and critical?
Yeah. So when we started never thought we would sell to larger enterprise companies, but it really just evolved over the last couple of years that they start to buy really different solutions that are more user experience driven, compliance driven, workflow automations. Often they come to us with, hey, can we try this mobile credential at my satellite office or my headquarter? And over time it becomes a lot more than that. And I think access control has the potential to add a lot of value in many different areas of a company of different sizes, especially also in enterprise, where things that are little problems for small companies become amplified and huge problems if it's just about going from location to location with different landlords. You want to have a global employee credential, and how do you even get in there? Do you have to do a visitor registration, or what's the process of booking a desk? Like all these things, we have a good partner network to have answers for, and that has been very crucial in like serving that category.
Thank you. And as we go down to peers, critical infrastructure, retail, two other completely different verticals, but how do you see those markets evolving and the needs there and what you can?
Yeah, we see, thanks James, a really strong analogy between retail and critical infrastructure. Let me explain. At InView, we've really grown up in securing merchandise for major retailers or telcos or major brands, right? But while also providing a really good user experience in the store. So you want the security, but you don't want to necessarily lock everything up so you can't sell your product, right? So it's got to be easy to use. It also has to be low cost because retailers have very thin margins. And we see a real analogy in the critical infrastructure world because you need a seamless user experience. If you have, let's say you're a telco or a tower operator and you have thousands of cell phone towers and you have enclosures that need to be secured, or if you're managing an electric grid and you have power substations, you have battery storage that need to be secured. How do you do that in a way that is kind of seamless for the end user, meaning the person that is going out there to service and maintain those assets? And so it's kind of core to the design ethos, and it's core, I think, to the problem. A lot of those assets today are secured by an old-fashioned padlock and key. Well, if you have thousands of assets that you need to secure, that becomes an extremely unwieldy problem, right? Literally thousands of keys, as an example. Or you have one key, and then it's not secure. And that literally happens. They literally have one key to access all these assets. So it's a huge challenge, but it's one where seamless integration between software and hardware and ensuring that that hardware never fails, and then the software provides a fantastic user experience for that end customer. And so we see that as a huge challenge, but also a real opportunity in the market, right? To basically have a seamless integration between the key, which is rapidly moving to the mobile device, and the workflow that needs to happen to service those assets. So, and we're approaching that in a variety of different ways. And one way is actually to extract all the intelligence out of the lock itself into the key, right? And ensure that the lock never fails.
So on a related note, managing contractors is another sort of part of the value prop of what many of you do. So Trent, how about that portion of the experience in managing the contractors?
Yes, so in the commercial real estate space, we're heavily involved with better contractor management. So a lot of, if the major real estate owners and managers haven't already got a contractor management system implemented, then in our experience, they're all on the way of doing that. And so the contractor management systems will integrate with the access control the building property management system, and then downstream systems like ours for key management. And the benefits of that is it eliminates lots of wasted time to onboard contractors, which when they present on site and historically, or even today still, they have to be manually certified to present on site, permits, licenses, safety checks. This can all be done remotely via a smartphone or on a computer device before they present onto site. And when they come onto site, they can get seamless access into the build by integration with the access control system, seamless access to where they need to be in the facility. And then when they're inside the facility, they can get seamless, using the same credentials, access to assets like keys through a solution like Torus, which is what we provide. So I think that's a great example of improving user experience, improving efficiency, and optimizing use of assets as well.
Very important in facility, for sure. And Bernie, as you look at the enterprise and especially global customers, what things are specific to that sort of world and keep you up at night, or them up at night for that matter, or you solve for them so they don't have to stay up at night?
Yeah, they keep us up at night in the beginning, and then we solve it for them. But typically, just by nature of being global, there's different laws in parts of the world around privacy. Sometimes in Europe they're stricter, so you can only store information for a certain time and they need to comply with a local law that says that. So you need to allow these customizations in a tool. And in the past, our first customers did a lot of the work themselves, but increasingly now they expect those features to be out of the box. So another one would be reporting occupancy. Every company does it a little different. Some do it by cost center, some by team, some by location, or all those different slices. So we provide some standard reporting for them that they can use and export and send to their managers and make real estate decisions. But of course, they also want to see things their way without a lot of manual work. So I think providing a basic toolkit for them that goes beyond access control, but then the extra mile is allowing them to customize it. I think that's kind of where it becomes really valuable to them and embedded in their operation.
And Colin, switching back to the residential world, there are so many expectations. That residential experience has become so important. What do you see there, and how does that differ in sort of different classes of properties, and how are you looking at that as a company?
So yeah, you do see a different need as you go from kind of Class A, high rent, into kind of Class B, Class C. And really what I think you see the difference is of where we play as an as an industry. In that Class A, we're really the access portion of a larger solution, right? There's a resident experience that ties in visitor management, dry cleaning services, rent payment, all of that stuff. And so we become a portion of that larger solution in those Class A type of applications. But as you get down into Class B and Class C, the expectation from the resident to still have a mobile ability to get into their apartment and into their housing, that expectation is still there. And so now that becomes much more of an access control driven solution versus that larger scale access as part of a larger solution at Class A. There still is that need, there still is that expectation to have seamless entry into their apartment, seamless entry into their pool, seamless entry at every level. It's just how big of a part do we play, and are we the overall decision, or are we a portion of that larger solution? And again, how do you play in both of those worlds? But how do you build a solution that works well in both of those applications?
And it's so visible, some of those services are actually marketed to the end user to bring them into those tenants, I imagine. Yeah. So it's so visible to all of us. And as we go back down to peers, specifically data center is an area which critical infrastructure data center is an area that we all talk about. We all know is growing at a very rapid rate. How do you look at that world and the solutions they're in?
Well, look, we see a need for very specific access in data centers, especially in colos, where you want to give an employee, a worker, access to a specific rack within a larger data center. There's lots of great security around the exterior of the data center, right? You know, and that's how hyperscalers and typical, you know, service providers have attacked that problem. But increasingly, there's a need, right, to be able to give one individual person access to a specific rack for a specific period of time to do some work. And so that is, you know, that is an important problem that needs to be solved. And there's, you know, we have a kind of novel way to go do that. Now, you need to then integrate into the larger, you know, physical access control ecosystem, right? So that solution needs to be part, that specific, you know, rack access solution needs to be part. So it's an integration story, but it's also, once again, about ease of installation, ease of use, being able to provide that credential to that person for a specific period of time to do the work that they need to do, and have that be part of a larger, you know, a larger whole. So.
And especially in the data center world, by the way, I say data and data, I don't know which is right. In the same sentence, I may use different pronunciation. But as you look at that world, there are folks like Equinix who host many different companies, and so different contractors come in, or the owners of those boxes. And then there's AWS, that it may only be AWS personnel. So how do you look at those differently?
Well, there's slightly different needs there, but even the hyperscalers are, you know, they'll have requirements based on the end customer will have, you know, specific security requirements even within a hyperscale facility that they have to meet. So you think, okay, AWS or Microsoft, you know, you might not have that kind of segmented challenge around access control. That's not actually completely true. So, you know, the answer is it depends, but increasingly we're kind of seeing that need to be able to segment and provide very specific access controls to specific parts of the data center.
Interesting growing part of the market, for
Exactly.
sure. And Bernie, as you look at the office market today, and for Trent, you as well, things are obviously changing drastically in the office market, and depending upon what city you're in, vast changes in occupancy, et cetera. How do you sort of see that affecting your world?
I think people become more dynamic planning real estate overall, and landlords and leases are adjusting to that. And you know, if an employee wants to work from whatever part in the world you have an office in or don't have one in, you have to deal with that. So,
Well, guys, thank you so much. I see we're just ticking down, and a lot more information to glean from all of you. So I'm sorry it's so brief, but thank you for being so succinct and for your time, and thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.